All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda, human resources report.
Okay, so effective in June, we had 6 terminations. We had 2 jailer dispatchers, a part-time breastfeeding peer counselor, a maintenance summer help worker, a social services worker, and then the operations manager at highway. Those are our 6 terms. We had 8 hires starting in June. 4 of those were summer help positions, so 3 maintenance summer help and 1 forestry summer help. Our recovery court coordinator started in June, so hopefully that program can get going again. Economic support specialist, a mechanic, and 1 jailer dispatcher were our June hires. Current open positions that we have right now in the sheriff's department, we are down 4 jailer dispatchers still. We are interviewing 1 candidate on Wednesday and then have another posting out right now too. So the 1 candidate we're interviewing Wednesday is from like the last round of postings that we had, and we have a female only posting out right now because our positions with the DOJ need to be females right now. And then patrol deputy, we have 1 in the pre-hire process, so going through the background check and all of that we are pretty confident that we'll be making a final offer on. However, the patrol deputy, their shifts, that would fully fill our patrol deputies, but the patrol deputies will not truly be fully staffed until October because we have 2 people that are going through the academy right now. So just keep that in mind, we won't be hiring for anymore, but we won't be fully staffed there until October. Out at the highway department, we have a commissioner opening that we're currently in the interviewing stages of for that position, and then a highway operations manager. The job posting for that closed yesterday, and I will be reviewing applications and setting up interviews hopefully this week. We have the finance accountant 3 position open down at highway. And then in our health and human services department, we have 2 social worker positions that are open. I know at the board meeting on Tuesday, it was passed that we can offer that accounting or the associate's degree for the social worker. So as soon as that grade comes back from Carlson Detman, we will be posting that with that education level in there. So 2 openings for them. The clerk 3, we have an opening in HHS, and then we conducted interviews on that today, so hopefully final offer will be end of this week, early next week. And then veteran service officer, we have that open and hoping to do interviews next week for that. That position just closed, so. Any questions on hires, terms, open positions?
I have a question. So we have a highway commissioner and the operations manager jobs both open.
Yep.
It would seem to me that, at least if I were looking at it, that we hire a highway commissioner and have the highway commissioner in place to participate in hiring the operations manager. Because that's the person that operations manager is gonna have to work for. And, you know, it just seemed to me that it would, again, it might be a delay, boy. You want those 2 people to be compatible.
Yeah, they'd be pretty much married.
Yeah.
Well, that's something for the highway committee.
It is a very,
I think the thought behind it was that we know we have someone who's doing the interim right now, which you have a very good point. We have someone doing the interim right now, and we're kind of like, this individual's leaving also, pretty soon it's gonna be. Yeah, so we thought something was better than nothing. I mean, it is a good point, but it could be a month for a highway commissioner, it could be 4 months. And the other side of that would be, at least if we have an operations manager, we have someone in the interim, hopefully. But, I mean, you have a valid point.
any other questions, comments, concerns on that?
Number 2,
consider changes to summer health compensation.
So bringing this up now, not for this summer help, but for next summer, and the reason why we're bringing it up already in July is for budget season. Jamie has rolled out the budget, so starting to be able to get numbers in there for our next summer help compensation. So I don't even know if you have the numbers of when it was or if anybody knows when the wage was last increased for our summer help, but from what I've understood, it's been many, many years. Our summer help seasonal staff start at $12.50 an hour. And we have a lot of hard time getting applicants for that due to that wage, due to the $12.50 wage. So, and also I haven't found anything written anywhere that is truly what we offer, but that's the past practices, so that's what I am following. And the past practices, again, that I haven't found written anywhere is that somebody's first time starts at $12.50, and then if it's the next year, they can get $1 raise for each year after that they come back, but they cap at 15. So $12.50, $13.50, $14.50, fourth year would get 15. So I've had a lot of the department heads, maintenance, forestry, highway used to have summer help talk to me about that wage. So that was something that I wanted to discuss. So looking at possibly authorizing that starting pay for seasonal employees for that summer help, technically seasonal employees, to start at $15 an hour instead of $12.50, with an increase of $1 per hour each year for if the seasonal employee returns to work with Ross County, maxed at $20 an hour. And that would be effective of January 1st, 2025.
Before it was
And so that would
50
be-
cents?
It was $12.50, and they would go up in $1. So
They go up $1 now and
$13.50,
maxing at
$14.50, and
$15.50.
15. So
15.
last year you only get 50 cents. Which again, I haven't found any of this in writing ever. That's what we've always done. So that's what I've
Are
been.
these high schoolers or?
No, these are
College.
college students.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
We shouldn't have to go from 15 to 20, because what's the chances of them coming back 5 years in a row? Unless they started.
I think sometimes maybe the fair would, maybe, right? Is that?
Forestry, I think, has several that have, this is their third year back.
That'd be 18 then.
We just went through forestry, we raised it up.
What's the city pay?
I think they're at 15.
They start at 15?
I think so.
Seasonal.
That'd be 50 cents an hour more than that.
Yeah, and if you guys do recall, this has been brought to our personnel numerous times because since we don't have a written policy on it,
Cause
we've
they're
had
able to fill
them.
their positions, we can't fill ours, so we gotta go 50 cents an hour more than the city.
Since we don't have any policy on it, we've had, or a resolution that we could find on it, we've been having them come back every summer to ask like, hey, can I place this person at this amount? Can I place this person at this amount? So that's why you guys, some of you have been on the committee before, had heard that being talked about, a couple months ago from the summer help that was coming on.
What's the hit to the budget?
Well, we wouldn't do a financial impact to the budget with this because they would have to budget for it in their budgets for next year.
We didn't do a swag at least.
We've been short on filling these positions in the past, correct?
Yes.
That's saving us money.
So this may be the time
In this case, it fucked.
to bring this up
It is.
and to ask that it be put on our next agenda. I think we all heard Mr. Schneider comment about the fact that we have systematically ignored our EMTs.
You beat me to it, I was already thinking that, gosh darn
And
it.
I'm thinking, you raise these people from $12.50 to $15 an hour. And take another nose thumb at the EMTs, and you're gonna need an EMT.
Did
Yeah.
Mr. Hall?
Well, when you need it, you're not gonna get it.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So.
I think that's up to Mr. Hall to ask for it.
Yeah,
What's
He
that?
is working on a resolution
Right.
as we speak.
Mr. Hall.
and he has brought a resolution forward, just to be fair, every year with an
Yes,
increase for
I
them.
mean, I don't think we should pin this on Tom.
I do.
Well,
Tom and I,
I'm
but I
just
think that
like,
this has not been,
I
You
vouch
know,
for it.
in all
because
fairness,
somewhere along the line, somebody at this level decided not to put those people into the grid. And that's what Phil's really talking
I
about.
don't know
is
why
that
that
we
was.
just keep overlooking them and not, we didn't submit them to, we didn't submit them to.
We only put in full
Still-
time position.
They probably have more technical requirements for that job than other people that
So they're considered volunteers.
It's considered volunteers, but we can't, they're volunteers that have a rather expensive training.
I can tell you that I didn't have time to put it on the
Yeah,
agenda
yeah,
for
I
this
know.
meeting.
Yeah.
It was in the works for the next meeting.
Yes.
And Tom and I had a conversation this morning too. just
So
to-
I was planning on having it next month,
Yes, we
so
do need
let's
to-
get back to where we are here though. Let's,
And this won't take effect till next summer anyhow.
Yeah, and so it would be in their budget, it wouldn't be anything for the current ones that are already hired and working, it's
Right.
going to be for next summer, so it goes into effect 1/1/2025.
so it was to start at 13,
Start at 15
at 15,
per hour with an increase of $1 per hour each year, the seasonal employee
capping
returns
it
to
at
work.
20.
They make at the city for high schoolers at 13.25.
What was that?
I asked one of the city high schoolers that, the works for the city, would make an hour for the city, 13.25.
I thought they started at 15.
It's not a
This is her second year. He's high school.
I think 18 from my camp is enough, but not just one person. That's pretty good money for a summer job back there.
Fine by me,
So
It's a step in the right direction.
Actually, the savings here is that we don't pay any benefits.
Yeah, they're
Including-
just-
Including not being eligible for unemployment or any of that.
PTO, yeah, no.
there's a lot of
So you wanting, I did write up a sample resolution, Ashley did, so you probably, so I can change that to 18 from 20.
I think 20 is a little extreme for, I get it, that there's no benefits, but.
So I will say my thought process behind that was, like, for instance, in the forestry department, when you get a returning intern, they literally, Mike is like, hey, remember what we did last summer? Here's the keys. So that was my thought, if we can get them coming back consistently, then they're literally up and running the first.
It's not likely that they're gonna come back more than 3 years.
What's the youngest they can start to be that they can be an intern for the county?
Have to at
Is it
least be
18?
16, but forester would be 18.
Because of the, machinery involved.
We could do a 16, but we have to look at what.
And I guess, I'm fine with whatever, honestly. But if it's gonna be an intern type position,
Seasonal staff.
do we want it to look like part-time job more for someone that needs a part-time job instead of a student getting an intern during the summer?
They're
Maybe go 5 years is my
They're not
own thought.
interns, are they?
That's another
It's a whole
thing.
different
class.
They
It's
call
counted
them
with-
seasonal interns, but
Right.
I would argue that they're not an
Interns.
intern, because an
No, they're summer
internship would
work.
have,
Right.
yeah. I would argue that they're
Fine.
seasonal summer help.
Yeah, they're not
Seasonal help.
I mean, if somebody was doing forestry and they were going to school for that, now that's an intern.
But
So
they're
this
not
would
learning
cover
forestry,
someone
they're
though that
going
wanted to do an
like that.
internship
Yeah.
here in certain departments also then, right, Ashley?
Unless they're gonna buy a golf course.
Right.
So say someone, are we killing two birds with one stone here? So someone wants to be an intern in a department, is this also gonna be worded so that it will cover that, their
Yeah.
internship?
We classify them all together.
So
the
summer
intern-
help or interns?
Yeah, seasonal help or interns.
Okay.
Yes. So how do we wanna proceed with this?
those next ones there.
Sorry, not to interrupt, Dave, but let's, back to where we are here. How do we wanna proceed with this?
You're talking about the top or?
Yeah.
Do we go 5 for 20 or?
We wanna do 15 to 20 and
That's
5?
probably right, you're not gonna get anybody more than 3 years anyway. I mean, it's not like we're gonna redshirt somebody.
Wow.
Guy decides to go back for his master's degree, he's
Yeah.
gonna get 15,
Yeah, it'd be
$15 an hour for.
Yeah, he went to school with a guy that was
I
in
mean,
grad school for 10
seriously, at
years.
$20 an hour, it's still a lot more cost effective than to
Where's the other side of it? Somebody starts when they're 16, they come back their last year, junior year of
Pretty good.
college.
Yeah.
And it's a good every year. You're gonna have someone that can work pretty good.
By themselves, no supervision.
Wait, I don't even have the.
Find them sitting in the parking lot in their truck.
Yeah, make a motion,
Okay, what is your motion?
she said.
To approve
Yeah.
the
That
increase,
long-term- Is it short term or long
the,
term?
the increase to summer help
Oh, no, wait, never mind.
Seasonal help.
Seasonal
Yeah.
help for long-term, sorry.
to $15 an hour, capping at 20 after 5 years.
This is gonna be effective when?
Next year.
Next year.
January 1st,
January
25.
2025. Okay, do I have a second? Any further discussion?
Finance cannot get
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I just filled all my.
What?
I just filled all my help, I just filled all,
Yeah.
I went through it.
Right?
But it's only three, 600 hours is usually what they're capped at.
Number 3, LTE for Register of Deeds Deputy 2.
So we have somebody that will be on a leave from the Register of Deeds. It's gone through, their committee already, so I just wanted to, I don't even know if we need a motion, perhaps maybe we do, but make you guys aware that, there's going to be an LTE that they're going to hire while, the deputy 2 is on a leave of absence.
Have we made motions in the past?
I don't know, when we did yours, did we?
Oversight, just
And her oversight did, I think.
Yeah.
I know for sure it was approved, yeah.
Next.
Alright,
I think the oversight committee shouldn't have the ability to hire.
my oversight, in LTE, you don't have to,
yeah, it's a limited term,
Yeah, I understand.
so, what I mean is.
And the elected officials are a little different.
Right, the oversight, as long as it's gone through their oversight committee,
I guess my understanding from LTEs in the past was that you didn't need to interview and go all that process, but they still need to have approval to have an LTE.
And if you wanna make a motion, I'm fine with that.
I think I took it to both personnel and
That's different.
finance is my.
I don't remember.
okay, so,
So I would make a motion, we approve a
Second.
LTE for the,
Right now it's at like 6 weeks it'll be.
alright, I have a motion and a second, do we have any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 4,
Okay, so this one, I don't have like a ton of details on, some of you guys might know this a little bit more than others, but we have, at the highway shop, we have a highway worker 1 and a highway worker 2. And apparently after 3 years of being employed as a highway worker, you become a highway worker 2 and get an increase with that. That's how they've done it out at the highway shop, which to me is kind of almost like a longevity bonus that we wouldn't do in any other departments. So no other departments would we do like, hey, you've been here for 3 years now, Stacy, you get to go up to a classification 2 and you get an increase. And I think typically it's been about $1 increases, which is what they did what they did in the past is they matched the people, cause all highway worker 2s were at the same wage, so the highway worker 1s, that's what you'd come in at after you had been here for 3 years, you become a highway worker 2 and move up to that wage. Since we implemented the Carlson-Detman wage scale, we have not had anybody that has bumped from a 1 to a 2 that has hit that 3 years, and we have 2 people upcoming here in September that are going to hit that, and I'm really unsure of where we are going to place them at on the wage scale, because we have people, our highway worker 2s are at different wages, so it's not like we would just go and match the wage. And that also got brought up, me questioning, why do we have, there's really no distinction in job duties, they have the same exact job description and all of that, it's just a 1 and a 2, and from, maybe you can explain from the Carlson-Detman, it might have been something that was overlooked when it was implemented, not really realizing that there was 2 and they were the same exact qualifications and the same exact job duties.
No, it wasn't overlooked. How it was explained to them from former administration was that it's the longevity bump. So you've been here for 3 years,
And we just
you
left.
have all the skills, whatever that means, to do the job better. I'm really not sure. But no, they took into account that it was longevity based.
It sounds like something left over from union contract.
Yeah, is.
It is. And
So-
it had something to do with partly for the truck drivers, I know it was, it had to do with getting the license and all that kind of stuff.
Everyone's different.
Yeah, but
And did they have an operator position then too, right? So didn't you have a
Yeah.
different classification?
I thought they settled on, that time ago, that we settled on a single qualification, or a single classification for all the highway workers, that they were, you were automatically a truck driver, and if you did something else, so what?
Yeah, so since I've been here, everybody comes in at a 1, and then apparently after that 3 years, you jump to a 2. It makes me a little uncomfortable from an HR standpoint too, because we don't do that in any other department. It's not like even the mechanics or when a social worker's been here for 3 years,
And the
obviously.
job
any-
description is the same.
Yeah, exactly.
We did have a probationary period, though.
Jim, don't you remember talking about this at Highway? We talked about this, like,
And I have not brought this up to
first
Highway
time
guy.
on Highway.
And getting rid of it.
I don't remember right now.
Remember Bob stopped by?
Their job description's the same, their job responsibilities are the same, their job duties are the same.
When I asked at the highway, like, what is the difference, it was explained to me as, well, after you've been here for 3 years, they just know how to do more of their job and more duties, but that would be for anybody in any
Yeah,
position.
that's-
The longer you've been here, the more you're going
Right.
to know.
Yeah, but that's,
Plus, that's not necessarily the case. I mean, I'm not a fan of longevity pay. I mean, just showing up shouldn't get you another fucking hour.
Yeah,
So,
Times
Well,
have
I don't
changed,
know.
Mike.
Huh?
Times have changed.
Times have changed. I mean, it's a holdover from the union days. Yeah, teachers used to do that too. Still kind of
So-
do.
maybe this should be covered by the step system rather than by.
right, that's what I'm wondering is, we're looking at it, and we're correct, their job descriptions, duties, and responsibilities are all the same, correct?
yeah.
So,
I only have one
yeah,
job description for them, so
I
as
mean,
far as
you
I know.
ask me, I think it should go to the highway department for them, that committee.
well, yeah,
to
the
discuss
highway
and
committee
figure
needs
out
to,
if that's something that you can do without making everybody angry, or how you go about taking it to.
You can't use that.
I understand that, but to put it in this committee where we don't really have a clue is kind of like,
Choosing who they're gonna be angry at, that's all.
that's
Well,
exactly my
it's-
point.
it's the job of the personnel committee to set policies
I get that,
for
but
this. But I think I would agree, I think this is something the highway committee
They
needs.
may have a reason
Right.
why it
So-
makes sense.
I-
explain it to
That's
us,
the
so
way we've always
we'll
done
make a
it.
policy.
Making sense part is
My
Do you have any
recommendation,
recommendation to speak to the highway committee about, like, does the personnel committee have a feeling one way or the other of if
we
we should
recommend
allow
that,
to?
We need more
we recommend
information.
that they make a recommendation.
Okay.
that-
Give us more information.
I honestly, that would, where I was going is my recommendation would be for us to send this to the highway committee, for them to sort out how they want to proceed on this.
We talked
then-
about something.
But everybody should fall under that scale.
Correct.
I mean, there shouldn't be outliers like this,
I mean,
it's almost like a side letter.
I would put, I guess we could put that in our recommendation to the highway committee that, this is,
Bring them into the fold.
yes.
Isn't there else, is
Well,
there
they
just
all are
one
on
or
the
two?
scale, on a step, it's just, after 3 years, they go to the 2,
And then they get.
and
a
then they're
step.
still on the step.
Well, is there just one and two though? There's
Yeah,
not
then they're
three?
graded one grade apart, and I'm guessing the reason why they're graded one grade apart is because technically the qualifications under a 2 would be, you've been here for 3 years, cause you can't be a 2 without being here for 3 years.
Well, it might take 3 years though to run through the entire number of job assignments that they might have.
Stacy,
Yes.
we technically, I know we discussed this in highway a while back, I have to dig through the notes and refer back to where this went. I don't have a solid answer for you, but in my opinion, I think you should shove it back to highway, and we're gonna have to do some digging into this to see where it goes.
And my biggest concern is I have these employees asking that are hitting 3 years, what will my wage be? And I have no idea what to tell them because we have never bumped anybody up to a 2 since we started this. So that's where I'm at. And that's why I'm bringing this forward because I don't know, do we keep them on the same step that they're at now and just put them at a 2? Do you give them the step increase, one step
That-
increase, which is 20 cents, do you
So
give
on
them
the,
a dollar?
on the Carlson Detman, there's no
We've never
worker
had
one and
anybody
worker
step.
two on Carlson Detman.
There is, but we've
Yeah.
never had anybody move, because before, nobody's moved from a 1 to a 2 while following this wage scale, it's happened all before, so what they did is they just brought the worker ones up to the worker two's wages. Well, all of our worker twos fall somewhere on the step, they're all over on the step. And so especially now that with moving everybody, how long they've been here, they're all over, so I have do I pick the lowest paying person and say, hey, we can put you at this, like, that's kinda where I was going, if you guys wanted to keep them separately and have a 1 and a 2, what is the policy or practice that we're going to use for bumping our 1s to a 2, what is the wage increase?
Yeah, highway needs to look at that.
Yeah, highway needs, yeah, I mean,
That's what I
That's fine, I just put it here
Suggest that they
because,
take 1 and 2 out if
Well,
it's the same thing.
I would suggest that too, if they're the exact same job description, responsibilities and everything into it. I
And you
would
get bumped up
put
a
them-
step every year anyhow, so.
I make a motion, do you want a motion to refer to highway for them to discuss? Put it on their
Yes.
agenda? There you go.
So I have a motion to refer to highway. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Number 5, personnel, discipline and termination policy changes. At the last county board meeting, we discussed this. Mr. Whittingham made a recommendation that we bring it back to personnel to put some parameters in place for the termination portion of that, and the personnel committee's involvement in that. So that's why it is here. Just get that discussion started on what parameters we want in place, or what we were thinking.
What were you thinking?
We need a policy and a process. I mean, it would be not the same thing, but it would be similar to the ad hoc hiring committee. Because the appeal process involves the personnel committee, you might wanna look at a process that involved not all members of the personnel committee.
And you're specifically talking about examination.
Yeah.
so would you recommend somebody of just the personnel chair, or are you saying to form a committee of some sort?
Well, you might wanna look the way you do an ad hoc committee, I don't know. You might want this,
So,
you might want a member of the personnel committee and a member of the oversight committee.
What's the policy right now in an emergency situation?
Emergency situation?
Did we pass something, Heath, on that?
Yes, but now that we have an HR manager, we can defer to our handbook, which is the HR manager has the jurisdiction to place, employees on admin leave without coming to personnel, but when we didn't have a named HR manager, we did do that, Mr. Meyer, in those situations.
You remember what that was again?
I believe it was AC, supervisor, and board chair, or some combination of those 3 individuals.
But that was just to place them on a leave, that wasn't to term them.
Correct.
Right, so if it was, the thought process behind that, something bad was going on, then that time to call a committee meeting, they could put a person on administrative leave.
And
Which we
that's,
can do now
and
anyway.
that's
right.
pretty much the process you have to have, because, you know, somebody's stealing or somebody's, illegal, you have to, but you can't. The administrative leave is a point in between, so.
So where we're at with this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, Ashley, but the reason we're looking at this is because we want to be in compliance with labor laws, and that, most places do not require you to come into a panel of
Well, but I think,
6 or 8 people to be terminated.
that, yeah, we
You know.
want to have a minimal number of people.
Right. Because it's,
Really?
yes,
What?
You need
and we don't have, most of us
I think
on
the
the
process
board.
that makes it humiliating, demeaning, a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of energy
Getting
is doing the hearing process.
terminated is kind of humiliating, so.
Well,
Or even
Agreed.
threatened with termination.
right, agreed, but do we want to compound that by bringing in 7 or 8 people
Yeah, I agree.
who are not fully aware of everything that's gone on in the circumstances, because
That's my problem with it, you're coming in cold and judging somebody that you don't really even
Right.
know.
we're not involved in it day to day.
And it's
So what if you
so
make
hard
it
to
so that
talk
the
about.
decision is made by, say, HR, department head, personnel, I'm just throwing this out, I'm just spitballing. HR, department head, personnel chair, and then if the individual wants a hearing, then they can still come back to the full personnel committee.
Well, they
They
still,
already do,
they still
because
have
no-
that
That's
ability,
already
right?
there.
No matter what, they would have, due process with the.
Yeah, no matter what we
policy
did,
and
they
procedure.
could-
So
But
either
I'm
way, they
saying you
have,
leave that in place,
you have to, yes. we
but a
wouldn't
person
take-
can be terminated by the department head, HR, in a private meeting, and then HR meets with the individual.
But what I'm
But
saying
They don't
is,
have to come in front of a committee to be terminated.
but what I'm saying is that's what the current process that I proposed that got shut down at the county board was saying.
But that was just, AC and HR. What else was in there?
The department head. And then it talked about if there was a vacancy in one of those positions, what would happen, we would have to have a named interim, and if we didn't have a named person, I would come back to personnel, and we would do the whole hearing process. So say I'm gone, they wouldn't be able to move forward with doing that, say Ashley's gone, say the department head is gone, they wouldn't be able to move forward with it. So that's what the current policy.
I don't think it'd be the worst thing to put the personnel chair in there, but whoever that may be.
I think you might wanna represent it, the oversight committee too.
Why?
It just makes more people.
Well,
I mean, if it's a department head or administration, then it needs to be different, obviously that's different, but I mean.
Yeah, and that wasn't included in the policy.
That wasn't changing, right?
Correct.
It's just if an employee, not that they're any less of a
the
person.
question is, what are you at, whoever's gonna do this, what are they actually doing? If you're talking about having a committee meet with the person that you're contemplating terminating, that's not the same as having a committee make the decision, and then that person having the right to appeal to the personnel committee. So what I'm saying is you don't necessarily, if you decide you wanna terminate an employee, it doesn't mean that you bring in them before 5 or 6 people. You bring the issue, the recommendation before that group.
They have a statutory right to be present if you are discussing whether or not to terminate them.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
They have a statutory right to be present if you are discussing whether or not to terminate them.
Then
So then we would have to bring them
Yeah.
into the committee.
Termination meeting to
Right.
decide if we're gonna terminate them, and then they'd have to come back to the termination meeting to be terminated.
And with all due respect, at that point, I would just say you leave it as is then.
Right. So
So you're taking away the ability for administration and department heads to take care of their employees as they see fit.
And we already determined by a vote not to do that.
It was sent back here,
No,
the top, right?
it was removed from the resolution, correct?
correct.
Termination.
The termination was removed from the resolution.
Okay.
So
Or you could
that's-
say that part of it failed.
Yeah, right. So, but we still think we need to have a little bit more order and consistency to the process. That's how you go about terminating someone. Because it's been done differently in different departments over time.
So far right now, everything has, that I'm aware of, has been coming in front of personnel. You were on personnel before. Why did you do that? Did all terminations come in front of personnel at that time?
Well, that, that's, 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 that's,
was here yet.
I think with maybe one exception,
So Andy did Andy or the department head back then have the power to terminate? You remember?
no one. I
Had
think
to
the
go to
only,
personnel.
I think the only time we had an issue was when the department head was also an elected official, which made some difference. But I think back then it was generally, I don't remember a lot of terminations.
And she does have the power to put some on administrative
Yes.
leave until we can
So,
meet.
here's where I'm coming from this. There are different levels to this too. If we have an employee who's no call, no showing for work, and it's time to terminate that employee, do we really need us to be involved in that, or can we say HR, AC, department head should be able to handle that termination? I mean, there's.
Not showing up for work and not calling in is a voluntary quit.
Right, but what
It's
I
not
mean,
in our policy.
but it's not exactly, in our
I wish
policy
it was.
right
What
now,
is it?
we
You have to
cannot
tell them.
remove those people without going through this entire process. And that's where, what they're asking to be able to do. You know, now there are other circumstances that are more serious than that I think the personnel committee should be aware of. You know, if it's after the fact even of, hey, this is what came up, this is what's going on, so we're aware of what has happened there. I'm asking honestly how we want to proceed with this, what do we wanna put in place, because honestly, I don't think any one of us would relish the day of having to sit in a room with a bunch of people who have no idea what our job description actually is, because they don't deal with it on a daily basis.
I mean, think
To-
that we have enough things to work on. Not needing to micromanage all this. We have department heads and supervisors to manage all this. So
Right,
they
and on to the
time.
But they
personnel
do
chair
not-
is
They do
great.
not have policies that limit management authority. And
Why?
because the county has never adopted those policies.
That's what we should be working on
Well,
instead of
absolutely,
working
but-
on micromanaging
But you don't,
layers of
you
people.
don't eliminate micromanaging and then just leave it up to.
Right. Well, and that's why this is here, to have this discussion, to get it started, so we don't have to act on this and put something in place today. This was we need to get this started, we need to start putting these policies in place.
One of those policies might have something to do with what the cause of is, so if somebody's not showing up for work, that would be one level of termination authority. If you're talking about arbitrary, maybe not arbitrary, but somewhat questionable job performance issues where some person might think they're doing a good job and somebody might not, then I think that's a different level of authority.
It's,
You know, we're not, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, the private sector has the at-will employee, status that's a lot more convenient. But in public employment, public employees have more rights than,
They made the state at will, but they didn't make the playing field level.
that's right, and because they understood that politics gets involved in public employment.
They should have just made it the same rules for everybody, whether you work in a municipality or not.
Well, the only difference really is the statutory right.
Discussion to make a policy to.
There's still an
allow
at-will
department
employee, that
heads to
all
do
still
Right.
is the
what they
exact
But
same.
that throws
So it's just the grievance process.
the grievance process through.
And they'll get that no matter what.
And we're not, nobody here is proposing taking that part of this away.
That's a state
I
statute.
think we just limit the number of people that are involved, so the personnel chair or his or her designee, and maybe one other
county board member.
Yeah,
Committee.
yeah, right. Either that or you have the personnel chair, the oversight committee chair, and a third person that they choose. Do it that way.
Bringing back the discussion on making a policy, not a policy this thick.
Yes.
One policy for all terminations. I mean, does it matter if you no-show or you're disrespectful, not doing your job? Shouldn't your department head and people that work with these people every day? I mean, they can bring it in here to us, and Stacy being the chair can sit there and listen to this. And he's not gonna be able to make an educated decision. That's completely silly for him to try to judge somebody on 5 years of job performance, listening to half hour. I mean, I wouldn't wanna be judged by
But
that.
if you were going to follow that argument to its, what I would consider its logical conclusion, then really, the department head is the only person that knows that.
Correct.
But they've
Why
been
is somebody
contact
in an
with
office down
HR.
the hall, that's never saw that person perform their duties at any time? Why would they have the authority? The department head is the only person that fits your definition of who.
I think we're making a distinction, drawing a bridge a little too far here. We're not saying that HR can walk into any department and just pick an employee and say, we're terminating this employee. The AC can't walk into a department. This would all be initiated at the request of the department head. Whoever's overseeing that direct department would go to the administrative coordinator, go to HR and say, look, we have these issues, this is where we're at. HR would do their due diligence in that process before they just go, oh, we're gonna just terminate that
If we
employee.
didn't have the state statutes and stuff that we need to adhere to, I'd say, okay, fine, so be it. But due to that, there's other things we have to follow. The more I've thought about it afterwards, I almost wonder if it should just keep coming to this committee. Because there's other questions that need to be asked. Did we follow this, did we follow that? For example, though, before Ms. Goodes was hired, there was a issue that came to this committee. And that particular department had it laid out so well. It was, I mean, the process had been followed in the department, which I'm gonna assume she's gonna bring the same process and the same information to us in a situation like that, whatever it may be. And there was, you would have had to plug both ears and cover your eyes to not see the writing on the wall on this, in that particular case. So I think going forward, I think it's gonna be the same way with having HR.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah, it should never get
because of the
passed.
extra rules, the extra rules, I just think maybe it's simplest it keeps coming to this committee, but I'm fine with revisiting it next month. I don't
And
think
if she's got somebody that comes to her and says, I wanna turn my, so. It was maybe have that where somebody comes to you and said, I wanna terminate so-and-so, I had that years ago. I said, well, just let me see the file. Well, there's nothing in the file. Well, we're done talking.
Right.
Have a nice day.
And in all honesty, that was an issue.
Yeah.
Here before.
There's a school district, Ladysmith has been notorious for pulling the plug too soon.
And I don't think they're going to be
We
in the
end up
file
in court,
going
and we
forward.
lose every time.
Just have to revisit it and try to make a nice policy that works straight across the board, that way we have.
And I think no-shows and stuff like that, we should visit.
No-shows.
It's part of
Have some just
It's
take
part of
care
the obligation and the responsibility of this committee, though, to make sure that the process is followed according to the process has been laid out.
I don't disagree with
So,
you.
No.
And it's due to the extra state statutes that hang over this county board.
and
But
if you,
Ashley should know them, and she should be taking care of that long before it gets here.
Yeah, it should
But
never get
if
past
you-
her.
if you terminate someone for not following the rules, and you don't follow the rules for how to terminate people, then you're just as liable, you're just as, they can't fire you, but
I think we're all in agreement, we're gonna just bring this back
Yeah.
next month and
start working on it.
set some
Sounds good.
parameters. Sounds good. Moving on to number 6.
I didn't ask to put this on, so I'm not sure what,
I did,
that's fine, he was looking at me to start talking, and I got it.
Well,
it's something, oh, go ahead.
do we need to be in closed session for this?
You guys were involved in this before, do we need to?
Yeah, so I can give you guys a quick update, and I don't see any reason why that would need to be done in closed session. It's still in LandCon right now because, and Stacey, you're on the LandCon, so you can help refresh my memory if I'm speaking on this wrong, but they were looking, he still wanted another month to look at it, and they were going to bring it back to their July meeting in land conservation to talk about adding it on in that department.
Okay, the rumor I heard was they were talking about adding a position for another 20 hours, though.
Yeah, that rumor might be correct, but nothing ever got passed on that. I don't think
That was the discussion.
it would get, I mean, it should get passed. I don't know where I guess what I should say is I don't know how that would ever get past finance, because I'm not sure where that money would come from, the fund that would come from. Because that position is all grant-based right now, and we don't use any levy for that position currently, so I'm not sure. Can't see it going past the finance committee to put levy towards that, but I could be wrong.
Probably correct.
So what are we even talking about? Is that-
Thank you for being honest. This has been a discussion that's been going on probably for about 4 months maybe now, so.
And I've just been up here.
No, it was,
No,
It
through
hasn't
many other
been
committees,
here.
it hasn't
It
been
hasn't
to,
been here.
it hasn't been to personnel.
I'm like,
it was in personnel, with the old personnel,
Not
Not
this
this.
personnel.
not this group.
you know what we're talking
I have no idea.
It's the recycling coordinator position, so the reason why it's under maintenance extension support position job duties is currently recycling is part of the maintenance extension support position, along with 4 other job duties. So the maintenance extension support person is the support person for maintenance, the support person for the extension office, recycling coordinator, Fair Trails End, has a bunch of literally 5 different job descriptions under that one. Not able to get all the work done in time, not able to ever take a day off, that's how it got brought up, just a lot on that person's plate. So it got brought up of what we can do to look at this person's job duties and try to offload them. And there was a couple things that were talked about, and one of them was to look at removing recycling, which is 10% of the time of the maintenance extension support staff person, removing that recycling and putting it into a different department. So the month after we did that, it first was suggested that it went into forestry department. And the forestry department felt that they didn't have time to do that, so they said no, so it came back to personnel. And then it was talked about, well, what about putting it into the land conservation department? As I guess some other counties do put recycling into land con, so it's not, it probably would fit better there than forestry, when you're looking at it from a standpoint of duties and, you know, how it fits in with departments. So it's been discussed in LandCon, they were talking with Chippewa County on how they do it, how they, you know, can we partner with another county to do some of this? And so that's currently where it sits, and I think, Mr. Meyer had put this back on, wondering where we were at with this, cause it has been many
You're not
months.
talking about moving a person, you're talking about shifting the duties from that person
Yes.
to
Yeah.
a person.
Char came in and was brought to the
Conservation department.
previous personnel committee that she's rather overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, how can we help you? And if I remember right, one of her recommendations was, well, maybe the recycling could go somewhere. Plus there'd be some grant money coming in with that,
Say
to
that-
kind of offset that if it went to the, right.
So
We never
then-
said it would.
So then,
And then we thought the simplest solution was, which she agreed with, was forestry right across the hall. You know, they're kinda right there, she needs a little help, Char can still answer a couple questions for her. That came back with a resounding no. Then the next thought was, well, LandCon has some youth programs and stuff, maybe it would fit in with theirs, that was our second guess. But I think this committee,
the one thing.
I went up and talked to Char about it a while back, and I said, you getting somewhere with this, and then I talked to Stacy, and they said,
Think
still
about land conservation and zoning, or that whole department, they do have, enforcement responsibilities in other areas, so they would have some experience, cause that's part of the recycling is, there's some regulation enforcement that she has to do, right?
I don't,
You oversees
a
the.
little bit with some of the dumps maybe.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
if there's containment.
Well, if you have somebody that,
contamination
that's not,
and-
It's the wrong stuff put in the.
Yeah, contamination of,
Pictures,
Yeah.
yeah,
you know, somebody's taking
and I think,
car batteries and wrapping them in a plastic bag and putting them in
But
their
then
car.
my thought was, okay, so I know from previous conversations with individuals, and this is nothing personal, this is forestry gets slower in the summer in certain areas where recycling kind of picks up. They do their drives, they do this, they do that, so that's where my mind was going, I think some others too, that this could easily be a nice fit for them, for their, kind of their slower period. So,
Because if you shift it to somebody that doesn't want it, it's not gonna get done.
right.
and her original request was, it started out in the extension committee, and her original request was to get rid of the 15% of the extension, and that was voted. I don't know if it was officially voted, but that was a no, so that's why we started looking at other things such as recycling.
So we haven't gotten an answer from land conservation?
Land
They're
conservation
still talking about it.
is discussing it, we discussed it, I know that the last proposal was to create a 20-hour-a-week position.
To do the position justice.
Yes, to do it properly, to be able to do all of the outreach to schools and all the
So
stuff
what's
that.
what's,
This was what was brought up in Land Con.
so how does that come in when it's 10% of her job responsibilities now and they wanna make it 50% of someone else's?
Right.
Well, that's why they,
That's why we're having that conversation.
Forestry said no, land conservation said yes, but we'll make it too expensive.
yes.
Right.
Or yes, but we'll
That was everybody
add-
saying no.
Yes, but
That's,
we'll
that's
add
where I'm
more.
bringing this back to the committee, cause I think it's gonna come, just so everybody's up to speed, it's gonna come down to this committee making a decision where it's gonna go.
And my guess is it will probably be back here by August. Would be my guess, cause I don't see it going anywhere in Land Con, I don't see that, us going, yeah, we're gonna create a 20-hour-a-week position. I don't see anybody on that committee doing that.
Well, I would, the amount of the grant that we get for recycling wouldn't cover.
Mhm.
It wouldn't
There's
cover,
no
it
grant.
wouldn't even come close to cover that.
Yeah.
At all. I mean, Shar does it on a shoestring budget.
Yeah.
And makes it work.
All of it. There's no money.
And, yeah, there's no money
I know
left.
some townships are not asking for money back on the recycling. County
They did-
Grant did that, we just, we
They
don't,
did say that in
Yeah.
the Land Con meeting, that we're getting
to help save,
help, yeah.
there's just no money.
Well, I'm on board with the fact, like, I think you said, she only used 10% to do the recycling. He wants to create a 20-hour job here. So what am I missing? Char's more efficient? At doing the job then?
That, I
I
mean,
mean, apparently,
I think, to be fair, when looking at other counties, they probably do a lot more, and I don't know where if they're using, maybe they're using levy money, I have no idea. You know, so I think, you know, in some of these other counties, when he reached out to other counties and asked how many hours a week does your recycling person work, it was like anywhere from a half-time position to a full-time position, and they're going out to the schools, they're doing all this, so clearly they have to be
It's a
taking money
full-time
from
position at
other
one time.
places. What was that?
I think
Wasn't she 50?
So where was the money from
And then
then,
the
was that?
maintenance came into her.
but I mean, when,
She was just extension and, yeah, it was.
Stencil, when Cecilia Stencil was doing
Yeah.
it, I'm sure it was a full-time job. And the grant covered it, a full-time job.
It just came.
I know that she had a lot of benefits that
the grant has continued to do it for that. And the amount that the providers charge has subsequently increased
Yeah.
as the grant has decreased.
So it's statutorily required.
Right.
But I don't know any reason, any logical reason at least, maybe, why there couldn't be levy dollars put into it. If you're talking about a program that started with a full-time employee and a full-time, covered by a grant, and the state has pulled its support out, that doesn't mean,
Well, if we're gonna add 20 hours, here's another way to look at it, guys, we're gonna add 20 hours to land con. Then we might as well just give her a part-time person to help her.
well, yeah, absolutely, I agree.
And 20 hours a week.
Just another person.
So, I mean, what's the point of shifting it if we're just gonna give another
If you put
department?
another department, they'll spend 90% of their time on something else besides this.
So,
They'll just absorb it.
I mean, that's,
That's how that works.
and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ashley, but we were fairly short on financial details in LandCon on what an actual cost would be of this. There really wasn't any of that provided to us.
Correct.
It was just thrown out there that, hey, this is what we should do.
Well, cause the wage would be lower than what Char's wage is also,
Right.
because that job is graded with all of her responsibilities versus our recycling.
So, just so we're aware, it'll probably be back here by August. We will. Are we okay moving on? Is there any further discussion?
I just wanted to bring it to the committee, so everybody got
I'm getting hungry.
an idea of what, that I didn't want it forgotten, I promise Char would not get forgotten.
Start chewing your
The
fingers.
next thing on our agenda is a closed session. Okay. Unpaid leave request pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851C for consideration of employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Second.
Second by Mr. Russell. Mr. Willingham?
Yes.
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 Yes, we are now in closed session.
Oh,
Because I have to let her in.
Hi, I was dissing you.
Perfect.
Perfect. See, told you you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, we'll wait for both of you, I think.
Yep.
So, do I have a motion to approve the unpaid leave?
Yes.
Second.
45 days.
So we have a motion on the floor to approve the unpaid leave for 45 days, starting July 9th. And I have a second. Any further discussion?
I think that's a very bad precedent. I just want that done.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
July
I think that's a very bad precedent set.
July 9th.
Okay, to approve the unpaid leave.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Absolutely.
Motion carries. Okay, next item on the agenda, unpaid leave request. So it's a closed session, so unpaid leave request pursuant to Wisconsin State Statutes 19.851C for consideration of employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Do I have a motion to go into closed session? Mr. Willingham?
Yes.
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
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 Yes, we are now in closed session.
This is that resolution.
So the motion is to make
Okay, yes, do I,
unpaid leave commencing with the
End of it.
end of
end of
FMLA
FMLA through
the
December
31st.
31st of 2024.
Yes.
That's a
Do
motion?
I have that motion?
Second.
You go, no, you go.
I know what.
Jim gets it.
Flip around.
You wanna set a
I
precedent?
lost again.
Any further,
I'm gonna set a precedent.
any further discussion?
Need more of those, but these days.
They have to
Hearing
sign
none,
it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You guys signed.
Motion
the,
carries. We are adjourned.
Please.
We got 37 minutes.
I don't like, I don't like signing.